Okay, so back at it again. This is day 2 with the car. I'll talk a little bit about some things I had some downtime to go and install, like shifter paddle extensions, floor mats. Attempted to install turn lights and failed. We'll talk about that as well as some just more additional driving impressions about this. So right, second day with the car. Had some downtime to go and mess around with this a little bit. Was able to install the paddle extensions that I got and have been sitting on for a month. So these are I30n extensions from SoCal Garage Works. So you can look them up online. And these are for the I30n, but they work for the Elantra N as well, if you want a bit of a history lesson. So what the I30n is the I30n, I30 refers to the Elantra outside of the US. Something interesting about that is, outside of the US, the Elantra actually comes in not just a sedan, but also a hatchback, sedan, and a fastback variant. We only get the Elantra, which is the I30 sedan, here in the States. But the rest of the world has actually had the I30 hatchback, that's basically just known as the I30. They've had the I30N for a long time now, actually. They only really just released the I30 Sedan N, which is this car, which is the Elantra N, basically. Some other countries actually even have an I30 Fastback N, which looks absolutely amazing. It's like an Ardean, but it looks better, and it's obviously it's an N, obviously. We don't get that here. So, but this is a right, getting carried away with that. So shifter extension for an I30N. It works across all the I30N models, so including an Elantra N, so that just works kind of natively. Spent some time putting that on. Wasn't too bad. So this is a hunk of metal, basically, and it comes with a laser cut piece of 3M emblem tape. So you put the emblem tape on there on this first, and then you stick it to the actual paddle, and then there is 1, 2, 3, and 4 set screws you're going to put in, and those set screws have a sort of a conical shape at the end of them that will sit on top of the paddle and help lock that in. So I made sure to use blue Loctite on those set screws. They don't mention that or no instructions, but you want to use blue Loctite because otherwise it's just a bare thread. It's gonna back out. So put some blue Loctite on that thing, and that should stay put. If you're planning on getting these, one thing that was super helpful is having a set of hex bits that really tiny hex bits that actually fit inside those tiny set screws. That was extremely useful because these come with a gigantic thin Allen key, and the problem with that is you're not getting an Allen key on this screw here because it's going to stick out and run into the steering rack, obviously, or the steering rack cover. So unless you use the short end of the Allen key, at which point you're going to be sitting here suffering for probably 3 hours trying to install this thing 1/8 of a turn at a time. So having a drill bit, not even a screwdriver, just a bit to put on there and actually screw it in was super useful. And if you're going to be doing that, I would try chasing that down. If you can, just get a tiny hex key bit set. See if I can get the exact size. I'll put in the description afterwards. But got those on there. They work pretty well. So your normal actuation point works fine. Then you have your upper actuation point here. It really only works well if you hit the edge of it. If you hit the inside, you have to push a lot harder, which makes sense. So that works. On my right side, it's not very positive. I hit on the bottom. For some reason, on the left side paddle extension, it's not as bad. It's a little more tactile. I don't know what the difference is over there. But they work well. I already had to use them once where I crossed over my left hand off to the right side and kind of held it over there and had the wheel rotated again, and my hand was kind of around here, and the upshift paddle was right underneath it, and I could hit it during the middle of the turn to upshift from first to second. So that was super useful instead of having to like take my right hand off, reach over and actually actuate that. So super useful. I tried installing turn signals into this thing and failed at doing that. So there is a hand-sized hole inside the front of this car where you can touch the rear of you can get your fingers on the clip, not the clip, the insert for the turn signals. You're just not going to be able to rotate it, is kind of the problem. If you have like dude hands, basically, if you have like man hands, you're not going to have enough room to rotate that. If you're a woman, you actually might be able to rotate that on your own without having to take the front bumper off, and more power to you if you can do that. If you have someone with small hands in the family and you trust them, you could try that as well. It's just that for a dude, like you're not going to be able to, you're just not going to fit. You're going to run into the metal, and you're not going to be able to rotate that housing the 45 degrees that you need to do to actually take the thing out. So to replace turn signals, the reason why I'm replacing turn signals is because this car comes with halogen turn signals. It has LED headlights, but halogen turn signals. So to replace those, I'm going to need to take the front bumper off. So I was planning on doing that anyways, because I was going to install some grill mesh behind the main grill to try to protect the intercooler. If you look at images of the front of this car, like it's wide open right there. You can see the intercooler. Like there's no protection. If a rock flies in, it's gonna hit it. So I'm gonna try to get some additional protection, like some mesh in that area. So do a video when we do that. It's not a very difficult process. You can look up videos on how you take off the bumper of a CN7 Elantra. It's pretty straightforward on YouTube. Literally, you take off one screw on both sides of the wheel wells. You take off 4 of the clips, push clips, inside each of those wheel wells, and then underneath the car, there's going to be 7 push clips holding the bumper in from the bottom up. And then you wiggle it a little bit gently, and it'll unlock the existing clips, and the entire bumper just comes right out. And at that point, you should have enough clearance to like reach under and actually get access to that turn signal, as well as do any grill mesh modifications. Possibly like check out the intercooler and other things like that. So a little bit disappointing, but not surprised. I would even need to resort to that. Pretty much every Elantra for the past decade, you've needed to take off that bumper, if not the entire turn signal, the entire signal housing, the headlight housing. The headlight housing isn't hard to take off either. Once the bumper comes off, the bumper is what holds the headlight housing in. So it just slides out, basically. You just disconnect the one main wire harness from it, and it just comes right out. So do a video and detail how to do that, because I know a lot of people are going to be interested in replacing out all the halogen stuff on this car. On that note, another thing that I've kind of noticed is that I wasn't planning on replacing the dome lights inside this car at first. However, my opinion's now changed, because this dome light is weak as heck. Like, I can't see jack with that. So probably gonna go and replace out the dome light, as well as the trunk light. It's just super dim in there. So those are pretty straightforward. Those are just capsule lights. So I am now planning on doing that as well. What I did manage to also get installed were TuxMats. So floor mats over here, which are these things. And that's kind of why I have this light over here, so I can show you what those look like. Set those down, walk out. Okay, so these are TuxMats. This is a DCT Elantra N, obviously, because it doesn't have a third pedal. But these are TuxMats made for a normal CN7 Elantra, and they work perfectly with the DCT model. If you haven't been following, these will not work with the manual. Your clutch pedal will run into that part over there, and this is actually, maybe it's cut a little bit differently on the manual models. So unfortunately, these will not work for that. You can ping TuxMats if you want and ask would they be interested in making one for it. It's a bit of a hard sell for them, because it would basically need to be a one-off, because this mat here works for all the Elantras except the manual Elantra N, which is the only one. So you can ping them on that, on whether they might be doing like a limited run or something of that sort. But there is that. For the DCT though, this works wonderfully. I like these a lot better than the WeatherTechs that I had in the past. They work really well. They're fit way better, I feel like. Just little things about like, you know, like this cutout here. Like, why is this creased? It's creased because that's where the carpet ends, and on the dead pedal right there. This crease should be here. So this thing is fit really well to the car. And one thing I really like about TuxMats over the WeatherTechs are they come with these little clips over here. So what this thing is a little sort of like U-shape sort of clip that will stick into the interior trim and protrude this little guitar pick thing out. And that will hold the mat in, as in like this is not going anywhere with that clip installed in there. I have another clip right there next to the gas pedal, so that's very reassuring that this isn't going to flop out. There's actually another clip all the way here at the very top that's holding this thing and binding it to the carpet right at the back. So this entire thing is really rigidly mounted in here. So the right side doesn't even have a clip because it's so tightly fit that it actually just goes right underneath the trim. And this also extends all the way back, even behind the seat a little bit. So you can see the rail is right there. So really impressed. Obviously your normal hold down works with this, but really impressed with these things. So I got the full setup. So I have driver side, passenger side, I have rear seats, and the trunk. The trunk doesn't have any clips because there's no real reason really for it. It's not going to shift around that much. You can install Velcro clips if you would like. That's an option. I'm probably not going to do that. It looks fine to me. But for the fronts, these are fantastic. I'll show you what the back looks like, because the back is also kind of impressive. So it's always like hard moving around the car in a way that you're not supposed to sit in the car. So, I don't mind just like the Bosch 12-volt light over there. So, TuxMat's in the back as well. So, you can see the clips on the right side kind of holding that in there. And what really impressed me about these is that the mat, like this is all mat. The mat extends into the seat across the entire back portion over here. So it's not just like a bucket, like most of the WeatherTechs I've had in the past are, they kind of just feel like buckets. This actually goes into the seat. You have full coverage over here. So someone's like kicking anywhere around here when they're getting in, this is all covered, which is awesome. And you can see kind of how far this thing extends, like all the way up there, a little bit past the seat rails. So really impressed with that, honestly. So these are great for the money. And super happy with those things. Also, one thing to note is that obviously Elantras don't have rear seat HVAC. However, one thing I did not notice, but is kind of neat, is you do have vents underneath the seats. So those are still there. You just don't have, and I think this is in all the Elantras in the US actually, you just don't have controllable vents for the people in the back. They're still getting air. It's just that that nice convenience vent is not there. So yeah, the back isn't super interesting. It's just flopped in there. There are no clips around, but this works really well because you have two clips at the side for each side, and the entire seat constrains the back of it, and it wraps around the front of the well pretty well as well. So I definitely recommend if you have a DCT Elantra N on order, or if you have one you're looking for a possible arrangement for floor mats. So I think that's all I got right now for this guy. Hopefully over the next few days, maybe on the weekend, I'll have an opportunity to actually get the bumper off, do those turn signal mods and some other things with the grill mesh and all that. Could talk a little bit about the second day driving impressions. Car still feels fantastic. I'm getting more used to it and building more confidence. One thing that I'll take away today, and it's really just one thing, is noise level. So I actually opened all the windows just a touch today, as well as the sunroof. And one thing that I noticed is that I can actually hear a lot more of the N mode burble with that done. It just cracked open just a little bit. And I didn't realize this was happening, even at like 4,000, 3,000 RPM. And it is definitely still burbling. It's still very active, even if you're not above like 4,000. So one thing to kind of keep in mind, you won't feel the burble inside the car is the thing. You won't, it's honestly even kind of hard to detect. that the burble is actually kind of happening. It's an event for everyone else outside of the car, though. So that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're trying to keep a bit of a low profile on demand, like I am with this car. Just bear in mind that like you can't feel the burble happening. If you're above 4 and you hear the actual cracks from you letting off, you'll probably feel that. But below 4K, it is still being very active on that exhaust side with N mode active, with Sport Plus on the exhaust. You just won't feel it inside the car unless you have the windows cracked open enough for you to actually hear and realize, okay, I'm actually kind of loud right now. So depending on whether that's what you wanted or not. So one thing to kind of keep in mind, if you're driving this car around, is if you're in N mode and you have all the windows closed, you might not realize how loud the actual vehicle is. So pros and cons of that, obviously. Whenever I drive up into the neighborhood, I'm usually on eco, just to try to be nice to people. I don't need to be waking everybody up at 1 a.m. But if you have all the windows closed, you wouldn't be able to tell, honestly, besides knowing just how this car probably sounds like on the outside. That's the only thing you're going off of, is just memory. So crack the windows open a little bit. I would recommend that if you're going to be driving in Sport Plus exhaust. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, car feels fantastic, feels great. Building a lot more confidence with the thing. It feels very planted, especially at high speed. I'm just getting used to how the car just wants to act, basically. I'm not used to having an LSD really helping along the way, or that much like boost pressure. So all in all, nothing bad about driving experience for sure. That's all I got. I'm already at like 16 minutes of ramble, so for sure let me know if you guys have any questions, any comments on the car, or anything coming to mind on these things. So I had something coming to mind, but I'm forgetting exactly what it is. But yeah, I mean, like, comments, do whatever you will. So yeah, see you guys around.